Welcome to week 3, everyone. The focus this week is emotional intelligence. In this concept video, we will discuss emotional intelligence and how to read the EQI 2.0 report. In today's dynamic and demanding environments, the skills that differentiate high-performing individuals and effective leaders go well beyond simple technical and functional skills. The ability to understand and manage one's own emotions, to navigate interpersonal dynamics, and most importantly, to be able to cope and handle challenges and stress is paramount to success. The EQI 2.0 is one of the leading emotional intelligence assessments in the market. Now, because the EQI 2.0 is an advanced level B instrument, the results for the test are sent only to the coach. So once you complete your tests, the results will be shared with me, and as soon as I get them, I will be able to release the reports into your folders. Now in this slide, I'm showing the Emotional Intelligence 2.0 model, the EQI 2.0 model. As you can see, there is a blue circle at the center of the larger circle. Now that is your overall EQ score. And then you see those 5 different sections, which are the 5 focus areas, which are self-perception, self-expression, interpersonal, decision-making, and stress. And the 15 different emotional intelligence skills are broken down into these 5 focus areas, right? Now in the EQI 2.0 report, we also get a happiness and well-being score. Now let us talk about how to read the EQI report, right? Now when you look at your report on page 3, you get a summary of all your scores. Now the ideal range for a good score is between 90 and 110. So when any of your scores is below 90, it means that there is an opportunity to bring it up into the optimum. Any of your scores is above 110, that also means that you may be overusing that particular skill, and it may be wise to dial back on that particular skill and bring it back into the range, because what we will notice with this particular report is what is at the bottom of this slide, which is when there is a point gap of more than 10 points between 2 correlated skills, that leads to an imbalance in behavior, right? So as part of the research, what they found is that every emotional intelligence skill, say for example self-actualization or self-awareness, emotional self-awareness, each of those skills is correlated with 3 other skills. Now when the point difference between those skills is more than 10 points, then there is an imbalance in behavior. Now this chart gives you a complete view of all the correlated skills across the 15 emotional intelligence skills. But let me walk you through a few examples of how the imbalance shows up. So here are 3 examples. The first one is self-actualization with optimism. Now these 2 skills are correlated, which means that if there is a point difference of more than 10 points, then there is an imbalance in behavior. So let's look at the first one. So self-actualization is about having a sense of purpose, being very driven about your goals and going after your big audacious goals, right? So if a person is highly self-actualized, meaning they are very driven and going after their goals one after the other, you would expect that their optimism is also very high, right? But here we see a mismatch where the optimism is not within the 10-point range, but there is a 37-point difference. Now what could that mean? It means that somebody who is so driven that they don't have time to enjoy their successes. They're not even looking back at all the things they have achieved. They don't have a sense of optimism or sense of feeling that they have achieved something and they have accomplished something. They're just in the rat race going after one goal after another without really taking the time to appreciate all the things that they have done. So that is an imbalance of not really taking the time to appreciate all they're doing and really bringing up their sense of optimism. The second example here is optimism and reality testing, right? The reality testing is very high at 106 and optimism is a bit low at 86, right? So this again, if you're very focused on the reality in terms of what can go wrong in the situation or what was not right in the situation, again, it always becomes being very critical of everything that's going on, which of course impacts our optimism, right? So that is the second example of how reality testing may be impacting optimism. The third one is a very classic example that many of us probably face, which is empathy and assertiveness. Now in this case, empathy is very, very high, 116. Assertiveness, it's not a bad score, 105, but the gap is very high. Now what could that mean? That this person is being so empathetic towards somebody else, where even when that person is not holding up their end of the bargain and they actually need to draw a line and say, hey, this is not fair to me anymore, they need to be assertive and draw some boundaries, they are not doing that. They're just giving and giving and giving too much, and that way it is not a healthy relationship anymore. So this is the example of how being too empathetic without being assertive creates an imbalance in your emotional well-being and how you're showing up emotionally. Now these are three examples of how the imbalance between the scores could lead to imbalance in your emotional behavior and how you're showing up emotionally. Of course, we will break all of this down in more detail in the live session. We will look at each of your reports, each of your scores, each of your imbalances, and I will answer all your questions related to the EQI report. So looking forward to that. See you in the live session.